I've traveled to over 20 different countries by myself, and in this video I'm going to tell you everything that I wish I knew before I started solo traveling. The first thing I wish I knew is that you should pack half the clothes and twice the money. When you're traveling, chances are you're going to want to buy stuff along the way, and if your bag's just full of clothes, you're going to regret not having that space available when you do want to buy something. I've often fallen in the trap of overpacking, and what usually happens is I'd have no space left in my bag to buy things, and I'd often regret it because I'd have clothes that go unworn for the duration of my trip. A good tip I have is to just wear clothes that you normally wear back home. Stay away from buying brand new or designer clothes that you think you're going to wear on vacation just because they're going to look good. Chances are you're probably going to not want to wear them because they might get damaged, and it just won't feel as comfortable when you are traveling. If you have clothes which you currently wear and you want to get rid of, what you can do is you can wear them for your trip, and then when you no longer need them, you can either donate or recycle them while you're overseas. I found that this is a good way to get rid of your old clothes, and it allows you an opportunity to buy new clothes while you are on vacation. Often you can find clothes that are quite good quality overseas, especially in Europe, and you can treat them as a souvenir when you do buy them. Now, the second thing I wish I knew is that you're going to have the most fun when you get out of your comfort zone. I'm usually quite introverted when I travel, but what I've come to realize is that when you're traveling, you can be anyone who you want to be. You carry no baggage when you're traveling in the social sense. People you meet along the way are going to know nothing about your past, so you can be introverted, you can be extroverted, you can be as crazy as you want, and people are only going to judge you for who you are at that present moment. Also, don't be afraid of what people are going to think of you. Chances are you're just going to meet them for the duration of your trip, maybe a couple days in another city if you might catch up in another place, but chances are after your trip's over, they're probably not going to meet with you ever again. So just ask any questions that you have, be outgoing, don't worry about what other people think. People are always focused in on themselves, and I've found that people often, when they're traveling solo, they're always worried about what people are going to think of them. In all honesty, just be yourself, do whatever you want, and chances are everyone's going to like you for who you are. I remember I'd ask people the craziest questions. Nothing was off topics, and it often led to making a lot of new friendships and led to having a lot of great conversations while I was traveling. The third thing I wish I knew was that you should say yes to everything, but within reason. If someone at the hostel invites you to lunch, say yes. If you get invited to a museum, say yes. If someone invites you to go skydiving, say yes. Say yes to the opportunities that come up. Get out of your comfort zone and you'll have an amazing time. You'll end up regretting things which you didn't do, so say yes to things more often. Now, obviously, don't be stupid. Know what you should and shouldn't do. If something sounds dangerous or a bit sketchy, just don't do it. Know your limits, use some common sense, but if you do feel that you want to get out of your comfort zone and experience some cool new things, say yes to the opportunities that arise while you are solo traveling. The fourth thing I wish I knew was that you shouldn't plan too much. For my past trip, I had everything planned literally to the minute. All of my hostels, transport, and even some attractions were pre-booked before I had even landed. And in hindsight, although this did work well, it often limited me to what I could actually do while I was traveling because it kind of locked me into my itinerary. I did have instances where I met people at hostels and they did invite me to join them for the next leg of their journey. But since I had already pre-booked everything and most of it was non-refundable, I was often quite disappointed that I wasn't able to join them unless I had to fork out lots and lots of money to join them. If you are currently planning a trip, I'd recommend you do allow yourself a bit of flexibility so that if the situation does arise where you do want to diverge off of your itinerary, you do have that available for you. Sure, it might be a bit more stressful when you are traveling and you don't have everything pre-planned, but personally I believe it's just going to be a lot more rewarding and a lot more challenging and enjoyable when you are being a bit more spontaneous on your trip. The fifth thing I wish I knew was that you're going to be walking a lot. I remember for my past trip, I took a pair of brand new Reebok Classics and boy was it a bad idea. I had bought the pair just only a week before I had decided to travel, so they were brand new and they weren't broken in. And I remember when I was traveling in Europe and I did wear them, I got terrible blisters and they were super uncomfortable. I was also walking upwards of 20,000 steps a day, and when you're pretty much sitting at home all day back home, your body's just not adjusted to walking that much, so make sure that you have a good quality pair of footwear. I'd recommend you get something that's going to be able to be dressed up and it's not going to break so easily when you are walking a lot. Also, just make sure that they're broken in and they are comfortable for walking long distances. I'd recommend just do a couple trial runs before you do pick a pair because the last thing you want is to have sore feet when you're traveling because you're going to be relying on them a lot when you are traveling. Now, the sixth thing that you're going to have to know is what your alcohol tolerance is. With hostels and solo travel, if you are going to be choosing to drink, chances are that you're going to be out drinking a lot, especially if you partake in a lot of the activities that the hostels have to offer, such as the pub crawls or the games nights, which they have on a regular basis. So do keep in mind how much you can drink safely without getting too drunk where you're not able to control yourselves. Trust me, I speak from experience. Personally, I didn't know what a Long Island iced tea was, and I had a couple too many. And I did end up in a couple sketchy situations, but thankfully nothing bad happened. Now, the seventh thing I wish I knew was that you shouldn't be overly frugal when you're traveling. If you want to do something, just do it. Who knows when you're going to be back in that same place? So if you want to do something, just do it. Trust me, the money will come back, but time won't. So if you do feel like doing something in the moment, just do it. You won't regret it later on. I remember this one time I was in Cinque Terre in Italy, and I had been speaking with a guy I had met in the hostel, and we were thinking about grabbing dinner, but it was quite late, about 9-10 p.m, and none of the places were open. So obviously I am on a pretty tight budget when I am traveling, so I was a bit reluctant to go to a sort of a fine dining restaurant, but that seemed to be the only option that was open nearby. And that fine dining restaurant just happened to be a Michelin star restaurant, so just making it more and more expensive. I was just like, may as well, there's nothing else, let's try it out. I've never been to a Michelin star restaurant before, so I decided to give it a go, and honestly, it was one of the nicest and most memorable experiences I had when I was traveling. Funny thing is, the waiter that we had at the restaurant also was at the bar that we went to afterwards, so that was a nice surprise and a fun way to end the night. So just don't be too frugal when you are traveling. If you want to do something, do it. The money will come back, but the time won't, and who knows when you're going to be back in that same spot to do that thing again. The eighth thing I wish I knew before solo traveling is that shared experiences are going to be the best things that you do while traveling, and they're going to be the most memorable. Honestly, solo travel is anything but solo. You do indeed travel solo, but you're going to be meeting so many people along the way that you're going to have very little alone time when you are solo traveling, just by the nature of staying in hostels and going on walking tours and interacting with people along your destinations. Doing fun and cool things and just being spontaneous is going to be the most memorable things that you're going to get from your trip. So if you are a bit introverted, I would recommend you just get out of your shell a bit and just try and make friends along the way. You'll have no problem meeting new people when you are staying in hostels, and I'd encourage you to do things together, and they're just going to be a lot more memorable when you are traveling. The ninth thing I wish I knew was that there will be ups and downs when you are traveling. Not every place that you visit is going to be living up to your expectations, and not every hostel that you go to is going to be filled with incredible social and lively people. Who you meet and the vibe of the place that you go to is pretty much down to luck. Sure, you're going to meet people that are going to be socializing and want to go out, but there's also going to be times where there's people in the hostel that just aren't too social, and that's also fine. Just learn to enjoy your own company. I know a lot of times if you do book your hostels via Hostelworld, there is a chat feature available through the app, which I have used quite a few times and met a lot of great people through that. There are other ways to meet people. You can do walking tours, and you can maybe even go on like a dating app and meet people through there. But just remember that not every place that you go to is going to live up to your expectations, and not every hostel is guaranteed to be a social place where you can meet lots and lots of people. And finally, the 10th thing I wish I knew before solo traveling is that you're going to be able to see your life back home from a third person perspective. When you're halfway across the world, away from the comforts of your family and friends, you really get a good appreciation of what's going well and what's not going so well back home in your life. You get an idea of what things you can improve on, what things aren't working so well, and it really allows you to shift your perceptions and reevaluate your life back home. You'll really get an understanding of what truly matters to you, and I think this is one of the benefits of not just solo travel, but travel as a whole. I know it's cliche to say that travel changes you, but in all honesty, I feel that it does. So do get out there and solo travel, and you will not regret it. So those were the top 10 things that I wish I knew before I went solo traveling. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.